Amen. It's good to be in the Lord's house this morning. Love coming to the house of the Lord. I like that little song they were playing during the offertory. That last little phrase in that song says, "Oh, for grace to trust Him more." Trust Him more. Seems like the older I get, the longer I'm in this thing, I've learned if I could just trust Him more, things would be better for me. Things would work out and get better and better and better. And Brother Johnny had pointed out today's the first day of March, and I was thinking this morning, March 1st is a special day to me. March 1st, 2016 is the day I surrendered my life to the ministry. So we've made it 10 years. And I know I don't look like much. I haven't learned anything in advance hardly at all in 10 years. But the Lord's been patient with me for 10 years. So if nothing else, we can at least look at Him and says He still gives second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth chances and on down the line, because I'm living proof of that. But I do thank the Lord for Him being so good to me and His patience and His long suffering with me. I can honestly say after 10 years, it's been the best 10 years of my life. Amen. 10 years serving the Lord. It has been wonderful. I don't regret it, not one bit. Now, there's been some times I've thought, man, what was I thinking? I'll be honest on that, but I've never regretted it. The Lord's been good. He's been faithful to us, and He's blessed us each and every day. Every trial that's come up, He's got us through it. Every valley has had a mountain on either side of it. He has been so wonderful to us, and He's been faithful. He really has been faithful. So I can tell you now for 10 years He's been faithful to me in the ministry, and He's been faithful longer than that in my life, and I know He'll be that for you as well. If you got your Bible this morning, find your way to the book of Ruth. Ruth chapter number 2 this morning. And like I said, we kind of going off script here a little bit, and that'll be just fine. The Lord's helping us out of Ruth, and I trust that He'll do the same this morning as well, dealing with Ruth and them trying to get back to in this idea of victorious Christian living. Now, if you've maybe been sick or on a trip or something like that, we've kind of been preaching along the idea or the thought here that Elimelech and Naomi, what they did when they left Judah there in chapter number 1 is they took their family out of the Promised Land. The Promised Land is a great picture of victorious Christian living in the Word of God. So if we looked at it and preached kind of an analogy or a type out of this, it would be a family that has left victorious Christian living and they have gone into a far country. They've gone out here, they've gone away, they've left the things of God, so to speak. And then we realize that the Lord has dealt harshly with them in that land. Naomi's own mouth has said that she went out full, she came back in empty, she lost her husband, she lost her 2 boys there, she ends up leaving one of her daughter-in-laws there in the land of Moab. But now Ruth and Naomi have headed back. You find the tail end of chapter number 1 that they have gone back in to the land of Bethlehem, Judah, just south of Jerusalem there. They have gone back into that place. They've made it back where they were. And I believe the reason they went back is because they wanted things back like they used to be. And I'll keep that in your mind this morning. The way the Lord's been helping me and showing me some things out of this text is thinking along the lines of Ruth here and Naomi are a group of people that maybe aren't with God how they used to be with God. Maybe they're a little bit slack. Maybe they have gotten away from Him. Maybe they're in that situation, that time of life, where they feel like their prayers are not making it past the ceiling. Maybe they're going through a hard time. Maybe they just don't have joy in serving the Lord anymore. Maybe they're no longer humming Amazing Grace as they go down the road. Maybe they no longer want to open their Bible. Maybe they no longer want to pray. They no longer want to do these things. They're beat down and they're hurt and they're broken and they're trying to find their way back to how it used to be. Now, we know in the tail end of chapter number 1, and you can look at it if you'd like to, and on down there at the end of it, it says that they left Ruth and Naomi, and they went back. They started that long journey there. You'll find Moab is on the eastern side of the Dead Sea, the Salt Sea there. They've had to go north. They've had to get to the top of the Salt Sea, cross some mountains, drop back down on the other side, on the western side of that, down towards Jerusalem, and finally Bethlehem, Judah. It was a trip that was somewhere around 50 to 60 miles. Took anywhere from 7 to 10 days is what I've read and looked at on that. It's a long journey. It's a harsh journey. The whole time they're headed that away, I imagine that Ruth is talking to Naomi and having a conversation with her. I mean, what else are you going to do? You're on the road together for a week, week and a half. You're going to talk just a little bit. I'm sure they were about to the point of getting on each other's nerves. I will never forget one of the first mission trips I ever went on. We were going with Brother Doug and Miss Casey and some church folks. We were headed to Pryor, Montana. We was going to put a VBS on for the Native American kids up there. And I had already made up my mind. I was riding shotgun and Brother Doug was driving. And I already knew I was going to get on his nerves before we get out of the driveway just because I could. That was just our relationship. He got on me and I got on him, and we just tossed it back and forth. So we're sitting there, and if you know where Locust Grove is, a lot of y'all have been. Last fifth Sunday that we went up that way. But you know, when you're leaving the church, you're going down to get on 30, and you go down that hill there right before you get to the Highway 30. We're sitting there at that stop sign. As soon as he hits the stop sign, I go, 99 bottles of pop on the wall, 99 bottles of pop. And he looks at me and says, shut up! I didn't even get out of the road good before he's already on me. Ruth here and Naomi, they've got 7 days, they got 10 days, they got a lot of time here to have fun with one another and mess around. But I imagine Ruth is very curious about what's going on in Judah. Anybody ever curious about where you're going if you've never been there before? Maybe you're asking questions, trying to figure out what's going on. Think about Ruth here. She's born in the land of Moab. She's born over there. She has these little G gods that she's grown up around. She's grown up in a pagan nation there. She knows nothing about it outside of whatever Naomi and her husband has told her before he passed away. That's all that Ruth knows. I imagine she's walking with Naomi and she says, Naomi, what's it going to be like? What's the land of Judah going to be like? What am I expected to see when I get there? And Naomi had to look at her and say, it's been so long since I've been there, I don't even know. It's been 10 years since Naomi's been back. I don't even know. Last time we were there was a famine coming, and it might have changed the whole land. And Ruth probably looked at Naomi and said, well, is there anybody there that's going to meet us? And Naomi probably had to say, I don't know that either. I don't know if anybody's still there to meet us or not. Well, is there going to be a place for us to stay? Naomi had to look at her and say, I don't know if there's a place for us to stay. I don't know what we're going to do when we get there. So far, Ruth was probably very upset and trying to figure out what in the world's going on. How would you like it if you were going on a trip with somebody and you got in the vehicle and said, where are we going? They said, I don't know. How do we get there? I don't know. What are we going to do when we get there? I don't know. Where are we going to stay? I don't know that either. What are we going to eat? I don't know. What are we going to drink? I don't know. Where am I going to sleep? I don't know. Where am I going to take a bath or a shower? I don't know that either. That's what Ruth has got with Naomi right now. Naomi don't know what they're going back into. Ruth ain't never been there before, so she ain't got a clue what's going on. We don't know what's happening here. It's about like Brother Doug and Brother Kerry, they went to Pakistan this past year. They went out there to put the Burning Hell film into the Pakistani language out there to try to help those folks. And that's a wonderful film, by the way. If you never looked at it, check it out on YouTube. It'll help you. But anyways, they go out there, and Brother Doug was driven nuts by traveling with Brother Kerry. Because he got there, they're not flying, from Memphis to Nashville or something like that. They're going to Pakistan. They get to the airport, and they don't even know where the tickets are. They don't even know if they got a connecting flight to go to the next one. And Brother Doug's asking Brother Kerry all these questions like, what are we going to do? And Brother Kerry's like, the Lord's going to take care of it. That's faith right there. That's a lot of faith. Think he's just going to take care of it. And he did. He took care of them. But the point trying to be this, I like to know what's going on. Imagine Ruth is probably asking what's going on in this land. And all Naomi can give her is, I really don't know what's going on in this land. It's been so long since I've been there. I don't know what it's like. I don't know if any of my friends are there. I don't know if we've got a home there. I don't know if God is still there. We know that he visited and he's ended the famine. We do know that much. But we don't know anything else. We just don't know how it is. I wonder if it's been a long time since we've been back into a land of victorious Christian living that we forgot how much fun it is to serve God. You ever been there right when you got saved and you were on fire with God and you were excited and you couldn't wait to get up and you couldn't wait to open your Bible and you couldn't wait to pray and you couldn't wait to go to church and worship? You were just excited to serve God. But then over time, life happens, the world hits us. We were talking this morning in the prayer room, when it rains, it pours, and it seems like it's poured all over our life, and we get up in the morning and we don't even have joy to serve God anymore. Me too. Me too. I've been there a whole lot more than I'm willing to admit. But I've just been thinking on this text and dwelling on the thought of when they're getting back and they go back into this land. Now we know it's telling in chapter 1, they get there, they do meet some people that Naomi used to know because they recognize her as Naomi. She says, don't call me Naomi because that means a pleasant delight. I'm not delightful anymore. Call me Mara, which means bitter. And we talked about how that's the only time Mara is ever used in the Word of God, that she called herself bitter, but everybody else didn't necessarily think that. And we realize that God is going to visit her, and he's going to change that bitterness into joy. And we know that they have gone into the land, and then they have tried to figure out what they're going to do. And right there at the tail end of chapter 1, it says they got back to the land at the beginning of barley harvest. Now, we know the story of Ruth. We know what's fixing to happen. Somebody tell me what's fixing to happen. Who is Ruth about to meet? Boaz. Boaz. How is she going to meet Boaz? Why are their paths going to cross? Where are they going to meet each other? In the field, right? She's going to go glean Boaz's field. They end up getting all smoochy, happy. They get married, all that, right? Fair? Y'all with me? Y'all good? Are we sure? Okay. Is it hot? Is it hot in here? Is it cold in here? Just right? Okay, good. I don't want y'all falling asleep on me this morning. It ain't fun preaching when you're by yourself. And I know somebody out there is probably thinking, well, if you'd give me something worthy to get excited about, I'd get excited. I'm trying to do the best I can this morning. We know that Ruth is going to end up meeting Boaz in the field. But I believe Naomi and Ruth, as they're leaving that land of Moab and they're headed that way, the thing that they can both agree on is we're not happy with how things are right now. Is that a fair assessment of that? They're not happy living in Moab. They're not happy that both their husbands have died. They're not happy with anything. So we're trying to get back to a place where we can be happy. I like being happy. I like being happy. I like having joy and excitement. I don't want to wake up and mope around. I'm not a mopey person. I don't want to be that way. I want to be excited and happy about serving the Lord and about living my life and excited that He's given me another day on this earth to do something for Him. But they've gone trying to get back to Bethlehem, Judah, and they want to change their lives back. Can I say it this way? They're trying to recover. They're trying to recover. Naomi is trying to get back that fullness that she used to have. Ruth ain't never had nothing in the land of Moab. She's trying to get it for the first time. They're trying to recover and get some things, some happiness, some joy. And to get that, there's going to be some things that happen here in Ruth's life. I want to preach along the thought or the lines this morning of some fields of recovery. I believe we can sit here and we can look. And I've got 6 of them. Don't lose me on this. I'm not going to preach all of them this morning, Lord willing. But I've got some of these fields here, these points or these times that I believe that Ruth is going through here in order for the Lord to get her back to where she needs to be. Look here in chapter 2, verse number 1. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech. And his name was Boaz. Now, pop quiz. Does anybody remember who Boaz's mom is believed to be? Rahab the harlot out of Jericho. Remember we preached through that when I was preaching through the lineage of Matthew chapter number 1? Widely believed his daddy was Salmon, S-A-L-M-O-N, not Salmon, Salmon. I ain't never been able to say it right. But anyways, he has married Rahab the harlot, widely believed to be that Rahab the harlot from Jericho. Has Boaz. Now all that's going to play in right here because accepting Boaz, seeing the grace of God in his mama's life, is now going to put some grace in the middle of Ruth's life. That's a wonderful picture and illustration right there. But anyways, you'll find Boaz here. And in verse 2, and Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, let me now go to the field, and glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, go, my daughter. And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was of the kindred of Elimelech. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem, and said unto the reapers, the Lord be with you. And they answered him, the Lord bless thee. Then said Boaz unto his servant that was set over the reapers, whose damsel is this? And the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, it is the Moabitish damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab. And she said, I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. So she came and hath continued even from the morning until night, that she tarried little in the house. I want to preach on 3 fields this morning if I can get them all done here. 3, steps. 3 things that Ruth is going to go through in order for her to finally get her happy ending at the end of this story. Now we understand and we know what's coming. We know that Boaz is going to leave handfuls of purpose for her. There's nothing new here. I'm not trying to change the story of Ruth, We know that it's going to turn out good for her. But I believe before things turned out good for her, she went through some stages of this that we're all going to go through if we're trying to recover and get back closer to the Lord. I believe this first field that she goes through is a field of perplexity. Now, I know that's a big word. I needed one to start with a P. Can I put it to you this way? She went through a field of confusion where she didn't know what was going on. Anybody ever been there in life? I don't know what I need to do. I don't know where I need to go. I don't know who I need to see. I don't know what I need to say. I just know where I'm at right now ain't where I want to be. Everybody ever been there? I don't know what job I'm supposed to do, but I know it ain't this one. I don't know how I'm supposed to make my marriage better, but it ain't just working right now. I don't know how I'm supposed to raise my kids better, but they're acting like little hellions back talking, and it just ain't working. I don't know what I got to do to be happy, but I'm just not happy right now at all. I don't know what I got to do to have more faith. I just ain't got faith right now. I don't know how I need to get closer to God, but I ain't close to Him right now. I don't know how I need to get my prayers through the ceiling into the throne room of God, but it just ain't working right now. Anybody ever been there? You're looking around saying something has got to give. Something has got to budge. Something has got to change because the way that it is right now just ain't good. Naomi and Ruth, where they're at right now, where are they at, Brother Easton? I'll tell you where they at. They at rock bottom. They're at the very, very bottom of this thing. They've just come back and ain't got nothing. She's going to go into the field, and that act of gleaning there, what that means is when all of the reapers, the guys are going through and they're cleaning the fields and they're harvesting the crop, the stuff that they've dropped, they would go down behind them and they would pick up the stuff that they dropped, and they'd keep that. What's she doing? Can I tell you this? She's a beggar that still has to work. A lot of them beggars sat on the street. They didn't do nothing but hold the cup out and say, you can jingle that cup around. She's begging and still has to work to get it. She's got a double whammy on her right there. Y'all remember that show? That game show? I know some of y'all have seen No Whammy or whatever it was called on there. Heard it? Thank you. Leah. You want to preach this morning? Okay. I've seen if they wanted somebody else this morning. I didn't know. They said no whammy, no whammy, no whammy, no whammy, and they go around the board. If they hit the whammy, they lost their turn. That's how the game worked. Mama used to love watching game shows. But anyways, they're learning about no whammy, no whammy, no whammy, no whammy. And Ruth and Naomi both, they have been whammied here. They're like, I ain't got no money. I'm still having to work, and I'm begging while I'm working, just hoping somebody gives me something. I'm upset and mad about where I'm at right now. I pray and hope that nobody has ever got to that point, but I also know that we're all flesh, and we're all human. And I believe confident when I say this morning that we've all been there at least once or twice where we're not excited about where we are in our walk with God. We're not excited about how things are at home. We're not excited about the workplace. And something has got to give. We've got to change something so that we can get back to a place that is better. Naomi remembers how it used to be. You do realize when she left, she said she left full. She came back empty. It ain't how it used to be. And she wants to recover back to how it used to be in her life. So they went through a field of perplexity. They've gone through this time where they don't know what they're supposed to do. What did Ruth say there in the text? She said, I'm going to go to the field, and I'm going to land in the field, and I'm going to see if I can't find grace in somebody's eyes, right? Isn't that what she said there? You know what that tells me? That tells me that Ruth had absolutely no idea what field she was going to, who she was going to see, or what her plan was. You don't know how messed up Ruth was on all this? What does verse number 1 say? She was going to go glean what? What crop? Corn. But chapter 1 just said it's the beginning of barley harvest, right? We're so messed up we don't even know what crop we're going to go look at. We just know that something's got to change. We've got to fix where we are. We need a touch. We need a help from something. I need something to give. She said, I don't know what to do. I ain't got a clue what I'm supposed to do. I've been talking to Naomi on the way back. She didn't know what we was going to do. We didn't know where we was going to stay. We didn't know what we was going to do for a living. We didn't know how we were going to eat. We didn't know nothing. Now I'm going to just go to the field because I don't know what else to do than just to go and do that. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't even know what field to go to, Naomi. I'm just going to go to some field and hope that I find grace in somebody's eyes. They say, hey, you can stay here. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't know who I'm supposed to seek. I don't even know who could help me at this point. That's what Ruth is saying. I don't know if you've ever been that bad off. I don't know if you've ever been down so low where you're just like, Lord, I don't know what to do. Some situation has hit me. There's a trial on my family. There's a trial on my life. I don't know what to do to fix it. I don't know who to go and ask for help. I don't know what to ask for. I just don't know nothing. I just know I'm sick and tired of where I'm at right now, and I don't want to be here no more. Sounds like Christian life to me. Sometimes it's that way. Sometimes it hits us. Sometimes people come, and I hate this. It's probably one of my least favorite things as a pastor. They'll come to me, and they'll ask me for help. That's not the bad part. I want to be able to help. The bad part is the situation that they give me, I can't do anything. I can't do anything other than pray. I can't do anything other than talk to somebody and try to tell them to give it to the Lord. Isn't that the answer you want? When you come to the preacher and you come to the pastor and say, Pastor, I'm hurting. My family's in disarray. I think she's fixing to leave me. And the pastor has to look at you and just say, just give it to God. Because I can give you all the marriage self-help tips that I can come up with. I can give you books. I can connect you with spiritual counseling. I can do spiritual counseling. I can do all of those things. But at the end of the day, I can't put my hands on it and put it back together. You don't know how helpless I felt when I'm at the hospital the other day and I'm praying over Miss Shelby. Like, Lord, I wish there was some kind of way I could just take some of that. I hate to see her there hurting, Lord. Let me just take a little bit of it. But I can't. There's not a 3-step process. There's not a 5-step process. There's not some magic answer to do it. Anybody ever seen one of those help books? How to lose 50 pounds in 5 steps or something like that? If that junk worked, guess what? There wouldn't be nobody walking around that's heavy. Huh? Those steps don't work. Ever seen one of those books, How to Become a Millionaire in 10 Easy Steps or something like that? Son, I do them steps forwards, backwards, and sideways. I still wouldn't be no millionaire. It just don't work. I wish I had some wonderful steps that work. Ruth is right here, and she's wishing somebody would just say, Ruth, just do this, and it'll all be better. And she's calling out to God, saying, God, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how to recover. I don't know how to put my family back together. I don't know how to get happy to go to church again. I don't know how to love my workplace anymore. I don't know how to raise my kids. I don't know how to love my spouse like I'm supposed to. Begging and looking for God to give some answers in some terrible, hard situations. And all we can do is sit around and say, I just don't know. I don't know. You don't know how many people I've prayed with. Youth kids struggling on the altar. I'd go pray with them. What's going on? I don't know. That's what they tell me. I don't know. I'm just heavy. I just don't feel good. I'm not happy. I just feel like I'm all by myself. I just feel like I'm alone. I just don't know what's going on, but something's going on and I don't know how to fix it. That's a terrible place to be, ain't it? But I tell you, one of the very first steps you're going to go through in any situation that we deal with, there's going to be that first momentary part there where we're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I don't know how to fix it. And finally, we're probably going to settle in on this thought of I'm just going to give it to God. I'm just going to pray. I'm going to trust Him. And I'm just going to let Him fix it. That's where we go after this. There's this field of perplexity where she feels like she doesn't know what to do, where to go, who to seek. After this field of perplexity, after she's gone through all of this, there's a field of providence. Field of providence. You know what I'm talking about when I say that's God's providential hand? That means God's lining things up. That means God is putting things in order and He's bringing people together. I don't have time to tell you this morning, but I can tell you, I told you a little bit about how I ended up at Locust Grove. I can tell you how the Lord worked to bring me here, and some of y'all are thinking, God, you messed that one up when you brought him here. But anyways, the rest of you that like me, He brought me here, and He brought me on a good path, and He made it very obvious and clear that this is where He wanted me to be. He erased some doubts, and He put me in a place to where this was the place for me and my family, and He's erased all doubts on that. God's providential hand is working in the background. I love stepping back and looking back at things that happened years ago and thinking, God, I didn't understand it then, but now I do. You ever had the pleasure of doing that? God, I don't know what you were doing back then in the situation. I was looking around. I was perplexed. I was confused. I had no idea how this was going to work out for your glory. And then all of a sudden, years on down the road, I look back and say, I get it. I get it now. I get it now. There's a field of providence. But to get to this field of providence, let me read it to you. Let me read this verse. I'm getting ahead of myself. Verse 3. She says she's going to go into somebody's field and hope that she just finds grace in verse 2. Verse 3. And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz. That word hap there, it carries the idea of it just so happened. It just so happened this way. It was just God's providential hand that of all the fields she could have landed in, she just so happened to land in the field of Boaz. And it just so happened that Boaz was a next of kin to Elimelech. And it just so happened that Boaz had a mama that was also from a pagan heathen city there in Jericho by the name of Rahab the harlot. So if anybody in Israel, or anybody in Judah there, would have the desire to look on somebody and give them grace from where they came from, guess who it would be? Boaz. God's providence has lined it up. But let me tell you something. Before she ever got into the providence of God, before she ever happened into that field where she could meet Boaz, she had to do something. What did she have to do, Brother Easton? She had to go. She didn't know where to go. She didn't know who to go find. She didn't know what she's supposed to do. She don't know nothing. She just knows she can't stay where she's at. She's got to go do something. And because of that movement, God allowed her to find a place. You see, God didn't make her move, God just directed her when she was moving. Anybody ever been bowling? I'm wonderful at bowling. You can ask some of them youth kids that went when we went. That was bad. Brother Tim, that was bad. I got over there and them boys were bowling. They didn't have the bumpers up. They just had the gutters. And we used to bowl a lot when we were kids. We got down to Albany, and we always bowled. We'd break 100, something like that. Nothing great, but it was good for us, I guess. But we would go, and I'm sitting here thinking, man, I ain't bowled in 15 years, but I'm sure I still got it. I grabbed that thing. First of all, I done got sausage fingers, apparently. The only ball I could find to put my fingers in was a 14. But I grabbed a hold of that dude, and I said, shoot. I had the little kick thing, little foot thing, make it look like I knew what I was doing. That thing was going just as pretty as it could right into the left gutter. Didn't go nowhere. You see, the way this thing works, Ruth had to get that ball rolling. But God didn't have gutters. He had them bumpers set up. I love bowling with them bumpers. Don't that just make things so much easier? Because it don't matter how bad you are. You can throw that dude off the wall over there, and it seems like somehow it's going to bounce around until it finally finds some pins down there. Sometimes it's not a straight shot. Sometimes we bounce from here and we bounce from there, and we can't seem to get to that place where we're trying to get. But if we'll just get that thing rolling, God is providential, and He's guiding us, and He's moving us, and He's directing us, and He's helping us get where we're supposed to get. But if Ruth never would have started moving, her and Naomi would still be holed up wherever they were sleeping with nothing. She had to get moving. Sue was listening to a sermon on the TV the other day. She was listening to C.T. Townsend. He was preaching, and he got to talking about God is not going to do something for you when He gave you arms to do it yourself. Well, that was pretty good. Well, that was a pretty good way to put that thing. Apparently a lot of other people thought it was pretty good too. He pastors a church of like 4,000 folks. Somebody likes it. Somebody likes the idea that you still got to do something. I'm not talking about salvation, but God is going to want us to go and to do just a little bit. He can't do it all for us. He's given us free will. We got to make the choice to go and to do it, and then let Him direct us and get us where He's wanting us to be. She had to get moving. I found this out. Even in times where I'm not exactly sure what the Lord would have me to do or where He'd have me to go, there's always one safe direction to go. You know what that direction is? Towards Him. Towards God. I don't know what situation you're in. I don't know what situation I'll be in tomorrow. I have no idea. But what I do know is this. It is always right to go towards God. You'll never go wrong if you try to clean your life up. You'll never go wrong praying more and reading your Bible more. You'll never go wrong trying to serve Him more. You'll never have to worry about Him getting upset if you're doing something for Him. Can I put it to you this way? Ruth did a lot of prep work getting ready for when God directed her on where to go. Ruth had it planned out in her mind. She said, when God does tell me, when that direction does come, when I do find that field where somebody shows me grace, I'm already going to be ready to get in that field and work. Now, you won't find this in your Bible, so I can't prove to you that I'm right, but you can't tell me that I'm wrong either. So I'm preaching this morning. You preach it how you want to. I believe when Ruth had in her mind that she was going to go try to find somebody's field to glean in, to look for grace, she already had enough faith that God was going to provide that and direct her somewhere to find grace, that she did not show up in her Nike shorts and her flip-flops to glean the field. I believe she had her work pants on. I believe she had her boots. I believe she had her bucket, and she was ready to go to work. There was a crew down there in Highway 346, down there in the bottom, where he's building that bridge, and there's a box culvert there they're building as well. And the guy who was over the crew, he had two fellows come up to him, and they called him and said, hey, can we come work? He said, yeah. They said, when? He looked around, didn't have about one or two other people out there, and he said, now. In other words, get your stuff and come on. He's got another boy that works with him. He is as green can be. I mean, I feel so bad for this kid. I walked by one day, and he's trying to put a nail in some plywood, and he's holding a hammer like this. I said, he ain't going to make it. He ain't going to make it. It's 37 degrees one day. That box culvert's down in a muddy hole. It's slap full of water. I said, this kid's as green as he can be. He's got just regular cowboy boots on, just regular work boots. He is standing out there in ankle-deep water with it 37 degrees in boots that are not waterproof. That's going to make a long day. Going to find out a little bit later, they were picking on him. He gets stuck. Doesn't matter how many times he's walked through that hole, he's going to find a way to get stuck. And I'm talking about the good kind of stuck where you're about to lose your boot and you can't get out of that stuff, that nice gumbo mud. They said he's out there working, and he was trying to get unstuck, and when he was trying to get unstuck, he done face planted in the water, and he's done soaked himself. So he's on his hands and his knees, and he's crawling out of there, and he's trying to get up and get ready. But I noticed something. Every day I've seen him, and I've had that thought to myself, said, he ain't going to make it. He ain't going to make it. But he is stuck with it, and he's gotten better. And the last time I saw him, guess what? I was talking to my inspector on the job. I said, you ought to give him a nickname and call him Finger. He ain't quite a hand yet, but he's getting close. He showed up. He had on some better work boots. He had on his work jeans. He had on his Carhartt-looking stuff to work in. He haven't had a tool belt with some tools hanging off of it. I said, look at this. He showed up to work. You know what Ruth did? Ruth didn't show up to go to the beach. She showed up ready and trusting that God was going to have a way for her to go. Can I put it to you this way? Let me put it in today's time. She was ready to go. The vehicle was full of gas. The bags was packed up. She was ready to rock and roll. She was just waiting on the light to turn green and God to let her go. I feel like if we're not careful, a lot of us, we don't ever get to see the providence of God working in our lives. We don't ever get to go back and look and say, I didn't understand it then, but I understand it now. Because God is directing and God is working behind the scenes. But we're not ready to go when He tells us to go. Y'all remember there in the book of Exodus, right there the night before the Passover, God told His children to go and do something to the Egyptians. He said, go and borrow from your neighbor. Do y'all remember that? He said, go and borrow. They went to these Egyptians, and God gave the Hebrew people grace or favor in the eyes of the Egyptians. And the Bible says that they spoiled the Egyptians. That's the word that it used. The same word that they used when they spoiled the army. They took everything they got. The Egyptians literally gave them the earrings out of their own ears and gave them the bracelets and the necklaces and gave them all this jewel and everything. God said, get ready to go because you're fishing to get out of this land. Now go and pack up and get you some money and get some stuff and get ready to rock and roll. A lot of times I've found, and this is me, okay? I'm not preaching to nobody but myself right now. A lot of times I've found when I'm in that time of perplexity and confusion, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, where I'm supposed to go, or anything, God has given me a time to get ready to go when He tells me to. And if I'm not packed and I'm not ready, that instruction to go is never going to come. And I'll get to sit right there, twiddle my thumbs, and try to figure out why in the world I'm not on my way to recovery. Why things ain't getting no better. Why God's not putting His hand on me? And God's sitting here looking at His watch saying, I told you you could get started whenever. I'm still waiting on you to strike out. You see, Ruth, it wasn't wasn't one of them jobs everybody's fighting over to go and glean in the fields. It wasn't something wonderful. But she didn't get her bucket and get her tools and then sit there on the front porch or wherever they were staying and just sit there and stare at that bucket expecting it to fill itself up. She said, no, I'm going to go. I'm going to put myself in a place where God can direct me and God can bless me and God can help me and provide for me. She said, I'm not just going to sit around. I'm going to get going. And I'm going to trust God that He's going to meet me on the way. She had to get started. Her success was tied in to her feet moving, to getting going. Got to get going. We can't just sit here and pray that God is going to do it for us. I can't just sit here and pray that God lets me win the lottery. I ain't never going to win the lottery. If I do, it's definitely going to be a miracle because I ain't never bought a lottery ticket a day before in my life. So if I win it, it's going to be a real miracle. There's fields of perplexity and times that we don't know what's going on. There's a field of providence where we begin to see the hand of God, Him working behind us and Him getting us where we need to be. He puts her in this field where she can go and she can glean. She finds grace in the eyes of the man working that field. By the way, it was not Boaz that gave her grace. Read your Bible. He did after he found out who she was, but she asked that servant first, and the servant said yes. It's providential in the fact that she finds this field where she can go. It's providential in the fact that she finds acceptance in this field. She goes on to say it a little bit and talking to Boaz and thanking him for letting her in the field as a stranger. This is a Moabite woman that has come into his field. Now, can I be real with you here? When y'all drive and I drive to a big city somewhere and we stop at that red light and there's them rough-looking folks there and they've got their signs saying, just give me this, just give me that. Most of the time, what do people do when they get to those places? Roll the windows up, lock the doors. Don't make eye contact, right? Isn't that what most people do? Why do you think they would have done to a Moabite when they come up to the field? It would have been real easy for that servant to be like, no, we done got reapers cutting in the field. We already got maidens going behind them and cleaning up what they missed. We don't need nobody else, much less this Moabite woman. He could have cut her loose and said no. But he didn't. Because God sent her into a field through His providential hand where she could find grace. Just like she said she was looking for. She said, I'm going to go look for a field where I can find some grace. And God gave her some grace when she got there. It's providential in the fact that she found the field. It's providential in the fact that she was accepted there in the field. I believe it was providential in the fact that she found such a good field. You ever thought about that? What would have happened if she'd have gone to the field to glean behind the reapers and the reapers didn't miss nothing, or there wasn't hardly any crop there for her to get rich off of? God sent her into a good field. You'll find sometimes we're perplexed about what's going on, but if we'll hold on, God will help us. God will give us providence and put us where we need to be. And then finally, let me look at this morning. I'll wrap things up real quick. I believe not only was this field that she's made it to a field of perplexity, don't really know what's going on yet, a field of providence, letting God's hand direct her, but I believe it's a field of proving as well. It's a proving field. A lot of times when we say it's a proving field, that means whatever's in the field, we're waiting to see if it is who it says it is. We're waiting to see if it's going to work out, if it's going to make it. At MDOT, we have a thing called probationary period. You got to be on probation for 6 months for some jobs. Sometimes it's a year. Pretty much that means we get to decide if we like you or not, and we can fire you pretty easy during that. But if you can survive your year, you can pretty much commit murder and they won't fire you. And I've not seen somebody murder them, but I've seen firsthand how hard it is to get rid of somebody. Had to catch myself because I almost said I've seen that firsthand. Y'all going to think I saw somebody get shot. No, we did find a body on one of our jobs, though. Anyways, it's a hard deal to get rid of somebody at MDOT like that. But I believe that this was a proving field as well. I believe the first thing she's having to prove, she's got to prove her character. Can you imagine how Ruth went up to this servant of Boaz? She went up to him and said, can I glean in the field? Matter of fact, the Bible tells us kind of along the lines of what she said. Let me find it to you here. Go on down when she's asking the servant here. Verse number 6. The servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, it's the Moabitish damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab. And she said, I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. Can you imagine what's going on with Ruth here? She comes up to that servant. She says, I don't have anything. I just got back from Moab, me and Naomi. We've got no money. We've got no food. I'm praying you. I'm begging you. Please let me glean in your field. And then I imagine she put on that little charm. She pulled the doe eyes out. She said, I promise I won't be no trouble. I won't cause no trouble. You won't even realize that I'm here. I'll work hard. I won't cause no trouble. I just need some help. I just need to find grace somewhere. Just please let me in the field where I can try to take care of myself just a little bit. And I believe he had hawk eyes on her. I believe when she's there, he's watching the reapers work, but he's looking over his shoulder to make sure Ruth ain't causing no trouble. You got to think here, this is a woman from a foreign land that he does not know. A pagan nation worshiping different gods. There's not a whole lot of trust here. He's watching her to make sure that she's going to do what she says. That she's going to pan out. She's going to be okay. Make sure she ain't stealing nothing. Make sure she ain't breaking nothing. Make sure she ain't causing any kind of trouble. I believe she had to prove her character in this field. You know what happens to us when we find ourselves in a place of perplexity and we're trying to get back to God, we're trying to recover, we're trying to get back in victorious Christian living? A lot of times I believe we got to prove ourselves for a little while first. Because it's real easy to put on the dog for just a little while. It's real easy for us to say, God, I promise if you'll do this, then I'll do this over here to the side. Lord, if you'll just answer this prayer, I promise that I will be so faithful to you at church. We make it so good for like 3 weeks. Then we run out. Lord, if you'll answer this prayer, if you'll take that bird for me, I promise I'm going to raise my kids for you. And we don't always come through with it. Lord, I promise you, you'll forgive me and restore me, that I won't do this again. And then we do it again. Lord, I promise that's the last time. And then the prayer before that said it was the last time too, and the one before that said it was the last time, and the last time, and the last time, and the last time. I'm just telling you what I've gone through in my life. I'm not saying that that applies to anybody here this morning. I know it applies to me. What are you saying, Brother Easton? I'm saying that a lot of times we need to prove that we are going to do what we say we're going to do. Ruth here, she's been put in this field by the providential hand of God. She has found this place. Do you really think if she went back on her word and she lost her character, do you think Boaz would have took care of the way he ends up doing it? Not at all. Not at all. Can I play Boaz's part for a second? That's exactly what I want to do. I want to show up to my field, see this foreign woman with strange gods, wreaking havoc, causing problems with my workers, stealing stuff. The first thought I'm going to have is, I think I'll have Grayson marry that gal. No, that's the last thing that would have been on Boaz's mind. But he took notice of her. Lord willing, tonight we'll talk about what Boaz knows about her and has seen in her. They've looked at her character to make sure that she's going to stay how she is. Can they handle the pressure? How are you going to respond to the pressure? So a lot of times in jobs and interviews, that's what we want to do. It's easy when things are going well, but we want to know how they're going to respond to pressure. When Pete Golding took over for Ole Miss, everybody was talking about, oh, I think he'll be okay. I think he'll do fine, this, that, and the other. But then the big question was, when he gets to the college football playoff, is he going to be able to preach, good gracious, is he going to be able to coach on that level? A lot of people wanted to know if he could handle that type of pressure situation. How's our character going to stand up when the heat's turned up? How's the pressure going to affect our character? She had to prove her character. I believe she had to prove her character. I also believe she had to prove her willingness. Her willingness. You've got to be willing to go to that field and work all day long. Any of our older folks in here, did y'all ever help pick cotton? Raise your hand if you ever helped pick cotton. I figured you did. How was that? What was that sack called y'all carried? Did y'all carry the sack? Pick sack? Papa and Mama used to always tell us about picking cotton down there in the bottom. They'd have that big old long sack, and it would just drill out behind you like that. They say we start on one row, and we pick that cotton. Fingers be all raw, messed up. They'd pick that cotton, they'd put it in that sack. They go all the way in the row, they turn around, they come back, picking that cotton, putting it in that sack. Anybody miss those days? Y'all want to go back and do that? I didn't think so. There's a reason they invented the combine. Didn't nobody want to do that anymore. Ruth here has got to be willing to do something that might not be fun. She's got to be willing to do something in order to get on the path to recover what she lost. If we're a child of God and we have fallen out of fellowship with Him and we have gone into a far country and now we're like Ruth and Naomi, we're trying to get back, we're trying to recover back where we were, that closeness with God, that relationship, that open door of prayer getting unto the Father. If we're trying to get back to that, sometimes we got to be willing to do something that we might not want to. Sometimes we got to get rid of some distractions that are keeping us from Him. Sometimes we might have to get up a little bit earlier so that we can have time to read our Bible. Sometimes we might have to cut the TV off so we can pray with our family before bed. Sometimes we got to do some things that might be tough that we don't necessarily want to do, but we've got to be willing to do it, or we're not proving anything in that field. That prayer that we always pray, God, if you'll do this, then I'll do this on the side. Let's prove it. Prove it. God, I'm going to let this go. I'm going to quit that bad habit. My attitude's going to be better, whatever the case might be, whatever we're praying for. We've got to be willing to do some things that might not be super fun. Proving field, proving character, proving willingness. Lastly this morning, ladies, y'all can head on the piano if you want to. I'm going to be really quick with this. You want to know what else she's having to prove in this field? She's having to prove her perseverance. What's the Bible say here? Verse number 7. She's prayed, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. So she came and hath continued even from the morning until now, that she tarried a little in the house. You know what that's saying right there? That's saying she don't take many breaks. That time in the house, that's talking about the break room. That's talking about the shade tree. That's talking about the park bench where she could go sit down. That's a place where she could go and she could pick and she could say, all right, I've had enough, I'm going to go rest now. That servant is telling Boaz, let me tell you something about Ruth. Let me tell you something about her. I've seen her character. I've seen her work ethic. I've seen her honesty. I've seen a lot of things about her because she's out here sweating, doing work that ain't fun for nobody. And I've seen how willing she is to do it, and I've seen her character in the midst of the trial, and I've seen how hard she's working to try to get back and recover some things. And now I've seen her perseverance as well. She's not quitting. She ain't quitting. She's not taking a break. She's going to stick with the stuff. She's going to make it. She asked if she could glean, and now she's got a desire, and she wants that so much. She wants it so bad that she's not going to quit. She's going to persevere even when it's hard. And I'll tell you something. There's no happiness and joy on the face of the earth like being a child of God in a close relationship with Him. There's nothing that can replace it. You ever been to a church house somewhere and you see somebody just get plumb beside themselves over there, and they done stood up and they're going, hallelujah, glory, praise be to the Lamb, stuff like that, and everybody's kind of like shrinking back, so they're kind of scared. What happened? You ever seen something like that? I went to preach in the Carolinas one year. I was with Brother Doug, one of the first times I've ever been out there. Them folks still run. Okay? Run. Like, you better get up out the way or you finna get knocked plumb over. Run. Brother Doe went up there to a camp meeting one year and watched one of the boys swing from the rafters. These are Baptist folks, by the way. But I got up there, and God got a hold of some folks, and it cut out, and I won't ever forget it. There was two fellas. I was in the back right. They were sitting right here, and they got out. One of them jumped up, and he went, shoo, and he was like down like this. I don't know what he's doing, but he run all the way around that church, made 2 laps. Just shoo, going around there. I'm like, where in the blazes am I at right now? I got to preach the next day, and I got in the pulpit and said, y'all done scared me to death. I ain't never seen nothing like this before in my life. You know what that is? God done got a hold to somebody. They done got a closeness with God. You don't know why we're scared to death to go to the altar, why we're scared to death to say amen, because we're worried about what everybody else is thinking. If you get that closer with God and you get that joy and happiness with Him, you don't care what anybody else thinks. You'll stand up and you'll raise that hand and you'll praise your Heavenly Father for all that He's done for you. It won't affect you anymore. Why? Because if we've got that closer with Him and that relationship with Him, He gives us our strength. He gives us not our spirit of fear, but of power. He gives us that as long as we're close to Him. And if you've never had that, oh, you're missing out. My goodness, you're missing out. There's a boy at work the other day, and I don't know why he had these. He had some sour gummy worms. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Mountain Dew flavored. Yeah. All y'all looking at me about like I looked at him. He said, if you've never had one, you don't know what you're missing. You can have one. Now, I tried the one, and I wish I'd have stuck with the none. I didn't care for it that much. But he was trying to tell me you don't know what you're missing. Now, this ain't a sour gummy worm that tastes like Mountain Dew this morning. But if you've never been smack dab in the middle of the will of God in your life, if you've never been in that fellowship with Him and that closeness in that oneness with Him, I can honestly tell you this morning, you don't know what you're missing. You don't know what you're missing. You don't know how wonderful it is and how bulletproof you feel when you're one-on-one with God and you have that closeness with Him and there's nothing that we've put in the middle of us. But if you have been there and you've experienced what it is to walk with God, isn't that what the Bible said about Enoch? Enoch there in the book of Genesis. You know, the first person that God took, he never died, he didn't face the grave down here. God took him out of this place. His testimony, in Hebrews it says that he pleased God. In Genesis it says that he walked with God. That's awesome. If you've never been that close where you feel like you're walking with God, you're missing out. But if you have been there and you decided to leave God and walk out and get away from Him, then you'll do whatever it takes to get back where you were, to recover that back. How was that in the Garden of Eden? Adam and Eve, they had eaten of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And they realized they were naked and they got the fig leaves and they covered themselves. And it said that the presence of God was walking through the garden. Y'all remember that? Walking through the garden. He's saying, Adam, Adam, where you at? It's often been said that God didn't need to know where Adam was. He already knew. He just wanted Adam to realize where Adam was. I think that's pretty good too. Adam, where have you gone? You've left fellowship with God. And now you're hiding in the bushes. And then God takes Adam and Eve and He takes them out of the garden, right? Takes them out of the garden. And then He makes Adam till the ground and work the ground. That's now going to be his punishment for the rest of his life. To all you farmers here. Y'all didn't get my joke. That's fine. But He took them out of the garden. Do you not think Adam, as he's living the rest of his life, and he's got to bury his boy Abel because Cain rose up and killed his other son Abel, and he's burying him. Do you not think Adam ever wishes that he could have gone back when he saw that fruit in Eve's hand and just slapped it out of her hand and said no? Do you not ever think that he missed that closeness and that presence and that fellowship with God, or he would have done anything to get back to that? But instead, he's out here with the sweat of his brow, tilling up the ground, fighting thorns and thistles. Take it from somebody who's been in both places. If you have left that closeness and that victorious Christian living that we're talking about, that one-on-one, that relationship with God, to where there's nothing between you anymore. You've cleaned your life out, and your prayer life is right, and your study life is right, and you're fellowshipping with Him, and He is blessing you, and He's giving you joy unspeakable and full and glory. If you've ever been there, and you've made the mistake of falling out of that, coming over here, and leaving out on that and saying, I'm just going to take some time, just do what I want to do. If you're over here, I want to encourage you to get back with Him. Get back in that victorious Christian life. Get back in that closeness with God. Because I've been in both places. That place ain't fun to me. It takes a long time to get back here. It takes you some times of confusion. It takes some time with God's hand on you. It takes some time where you got to prove that you're willing to do what it takes to get there. But it's worth it when we get back. Let's all stand this morning, ladies, as you play.